Okay, how we doing today, guys? Sam here with you. It's July 2nd here, so we're looking at traditionals. Pretty interesting mix. You guys have just a lot of, well, you guys were all over the place. Mixing asset classes and different equities, FX. So I'm glad to see all of that interest in traditionals. Now, currently, it looks per the time of my recording this that UUUU Energy Fuels Inc. is our leader. So we'll get started on that and see if the polling changes here when I get back. We'll likely get another one or two today. Now, I know you can't see in here, but I just wanted to make the point here, just kind of re-emphasizing, as I will remind you guys, the underlying asset does not matter. You analyze them exactly the same. This looks pretty straightforward here, so I can just eyeball it and say, oh, okay, that looks like something happened there. All right, so a one tick front run, and it looks like a couple of ticks front run on the target here, so just straight algo play. Well, it looks like you can probably work an Elliott count into that as well. So, looks like something along these lines here. Probably it's a double bottom down here. Gets it done. Do we overlap there? Oh, look at that. That is... Right? No coincidences, guys. None. No coincidences in the market. You know what? That's a hard thing to say. Coincidences. I should. Being silly. All right, let's put that aside here. So we've got a reasonable area here to be in, assuming that we've got a potential pivot low. We actually put in a double bottom. Let's go to the daily here. So I think we do, I don't think we can go 1, 2. I've got a little diagonal that finishes down here. We get this double bottom. Now coming off of that, so first, of course, equities, we always want to start any wave analysis or here at the daily here. So now, of course, I was just out on the 3-day to give you the larger picture and just to show you, again, whether daily, weekly, 1 minute, tick chart, it doesn't matter. Always the same algorithms working. So here we get off of this low. I think the 1, 2 is kind of an interesting series of corrections here. It looks like we're working through a series of flats and expanded flats. So the 1, 2, 3 looks pretty solid here. Now we get into this kind of chop here. It does finish, and it is. You can work this and stay rules compliant. Now, so we get here, it looks like we've got to go 3, 3, 5. So we get a flat and we get an expansion in the B. So we get an expanded flat. Then we kick up here for the 5. So the 3, A, B, C into the 4. Now that's no surprise here. This is going to be technical. So from the 3. So we tag the 38 twice and then rip up to go to target. And that looks like likely that's just a couple of ticks up front run on that target before we scream back down. Now note here, so on the assumption that that's correctly identified, if this is a 5-wave impulse off of the low, well, the next thing we're looking for is a move anywhere from the 50 to the 618. So isn't that convenient? So right where we come, and we've dabbed it multiple times. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So we've got this area here. Seems to be offering pretty good support. So we can look left, see, and say, well, okay, so we've got some structure here that's in play, and then probably this covers the bottom edge of it here. So you're right. So even if I bring this down here, so we get the golden zone from that pivot here. So, I mean, that is not hard to spot. So you've got, of course, just the straight retracement play here, but then you've got structure giving you some guidance as well. So now, if that's 5 up, a reasonable candidate for a 1. So coming off of the low, this looks like we can go into a 1, 2. I got to put these somewhere so we can go to, we'll go to minuet. Let's put it in green. Okay, so there's a candidate here for a completed 1 off the low. Now here, it looks like, again, we go into this series of flats. So with this being the target and this sort of established here, I think I can pull this off. It does look like yet again, we've got this bit here that's a little tricky here, but it looks like, again, we go 3, 3, 5. So I've got an A, B, C here into the A wave. Then this here, I got 3 into the A, 3 into the B, and then 5 into the C. So note what's happening here. I'm getting a flat within a flat. Kind of interesting. So I've got 3, 3, 5 here. Then I've got 3, Well, 3 coming down, 3 going up, 5 coming down. So I've got yet again another flat. So I've got this finishing potentially, right? It looks like we've got a good candidate here to finish this as our candidate for the 2. So all of this, you know, of course you can just look at it. We can simplify. So we can say, okay, supply, as I drew it up, demand. So really, are we just stuck in a range? Well, yeah, and that's not an unreasonable way to think of it. But if we're going to break out of this range, then perhaps the Elliott is helpful here, because we can look at this and say, oh, well, okay, 1, 2 looks like that's not unreasonable to think the 2 could be in here. All the subdivision plays. So this little push off, it's hard to call that, it's hard to call that done, right? So it's not really fully shaped here yet. So it's a bit of a guesstimate as to what we have there. So let me clear this up. Get these off of here. We're sitting on a daily one. It doesn't look like. Let's go from our low here to the pivot. So what have we done here? All right. So this should shock no one. 50 to the tick. Let's go to the 4 hour and dig in there a little bit more. So you see here as we come down, we don't get a lot of clarity here. We're going to try and dig a 1, 2 out of that. It's a little tricky on this one here. So here's our 50. Now we've got a reaction off of the 50, but now as we sell off again, it looks like it's not unreasonable to think we could have considering this tendency for either flats or just more complex corrections. That's kind of what I would be anticipating here. Of course, this could be the 1. This could be our 2, since we're at a 50, and this could be 1, 2 with a deeper 2. But I don't see enough here to really warrant jumping on this. Now, if I come down here, now that's going to set me up a little bit better. Then I'll feel better about this. The idea here that I've got an ABC going in here. If they're going to put it on sale for me here, well, this would set up, of course, a potential corner pocket. So if we get this, right now we don't have this yet, so right, it's just a guesstimate as to when it gets there. But something along these lines here. So if I can buy it here with this ABC completing down here, so I might look at this as the buy range right down here. We see we've got market acceptance down here. So conveniently, we've got the volumes profile suggesting that we may find some support here, and then you can just kind of pull across and understand why. So you just kind of looking at all this, right? That's been pretty good support every time we come down here. So I'd prefer, rather than try and buy it here as when we are sitting here at the Vegas wave and we're kind of just crossed the point of control, but I like it better down here. If I can get this 3 to complete, then I'd be more inclined to think that even though the subdivision here is a little tricky to pull out of it, that this, if I can get my 2 in down here, and again, I don't know, this could take this, we don't know how long that's going to take, but somewhere in this range here. Well, then I get this just teed up and ready to come out of the gate. So I'd have potentially, we know how technically this has been trading. If I come down here, well, and of course that wouldn't likely be a 3 here. It's not going to be long enough. So if we're thinking about where that 3 could go, then we start to put the roadmap together like we always do. All right, so I've got a candidate here. This would be a place for a partial profit. And then this would be a reasonable place for our 3rd. Then anticipate from that we'd get our 4 and then up for the 5. So that's not a bad looking roadmap here. Love it. So I'll tell you what I would do here. I would put an alert just in front of the 50. In front of the 50. So if we come down here and hesitate here, I might be wanting to pay attention to it. Now this, of course, you could trade this with some options. So we'd prefer, always if you can, you want to buy counter trend in the options. So if we're coming down here, calls are being priced accordingly. So calls are getting less expensive. Puts are getting more expensive. So if I were trading this with an option spread, if it comes down here, we move down into this range, something at the money, it just doesn't seem unreasonable. I'd want 60 days of time. If you're particularly bullish on this equity here, you could sell some out of money puts, right? I would not do it unhedged unless you want to own the equity, the underlying, but you could sell You can sell some out-of-the-money puts below the 65 here and sell a put spread here to offset the cost of the at-the-money call. That's one thought, or just keep it simple. This isn't really a, you're not getting rich here, but you could double your money. Or so we're talking about going from 280 up here to 420. That's not a bad return if you see that move and it happens in the time frame that you need it to as an option buyer. Otherwise, if you're just buying the equity here, it doesn't look like you need to hedge this much, but you'd want to put a stop on it. So I might, if you want to give it plenty of room, I might use the 65 here at the larger degree. Look if there's anything else here that we might not be seeing here. So let me go back out here. This is something to pay attention to. If this is going to continue to come down, so let's just check this here. So this is our lowest low. So we ran into the 50. So remember, this is a pattern they like, these alternating pivots. So I get this ABC pattern here, and then as we come back to the 50, that's where you can anticipate a software reaction and algorithm likely there with this as its target. See the green down here? So that's likely what we bumped into there. And that's what that algorithm is after. So I want to point that out. You get to the point where you'll see them all the time. You could almost, you can see it. If I bring it over here, you can see it happened here as well. So we had this A, B, C pattern. We come up here, right? We get between the 50 and the 618. Now that's denied target. It rips away from it. So this algorithm is stopped out here, right? But now they reload here. So this, I don't hate this. Now keep in mind that if this algorithm here that's sold at this 50 is going to get target, that's going to stop you out down here. So that's why you don't need to give it a lot of room here if you're looking to be a buyer down here at this golden zone on the assumption that we're coming down here. Remember, you've got this algorithm that's sold here with this as its target. So it lets you define the risk here. There's no reason to ride it all the way down here. If I pull out on that, that wouldn't invalidate the idea that we have a 2. Here's my 2 here. That wouldn't invalidate the idea that we've got a 2 going in, but you lose the buy side algo. Right? Do you see what I'm saying? So once we break this golden zone here, we've lost the buy side algo, right? So, and we want to be behind them if we can at all times, what they did last. So we can see what happened last year. This algorithm sold it with that as a target. But if we come swing high to swing low, we've got a bit of a fib fight. So you could look at it this way, between this 50 and, well, we could use the golden zone here. So we have defense up here on the short side, and then we've got buyers trying to pick it up down here. As you can see, we haven't quite got to the golden zone here, but I would use this 65 as an exit, because if it's coming down here, they're likely going there, and then you got second target down here. So just be careful here, unless you're looking for this for a long-term hold. If so, well, that kind of changes the parameters of how you might want to approach a trade here. But so of course you could just buy the underlying and say, okay, I'm gonna stay with it here. Maybe you give it to the 786 because you're a bull, right? So you're riding it down from 276 to 188. I don't know, that's gonna sting a little bit. So at some point you've got to recognize that. I mean, are you going to go all the way back down to the low? Where is your, as part of any trade plan, where are you committing to exiting? And if you don't have that commitment, well, one, why are you trading it? Right? Unless you're such a bull and you just want to own it. All right, so then you don't care. You're like, well, maybe I'll average down. I'll continue to average down, but I would caution that, because this is the last stand for buy side algos, and I want to be behind them if I can. So just some fuel for thought there. So I can give you the technical analysis here, but there's a number of different ways to trade this, whether you're looking to own the underlying. Now, of course, it's cheap enough here. You can buy it. You don't need to work with the options. So just a few other things to consider, but have a point where you say, okay, that's my out. I would tell you, always a mistake to just buy it and then not kind of watch what's happening here. Have a point where you go, okay, I don't want to take all that drawdown. I'd rather take a smaller loser here and then reevaluate, right? So then, right, maybe you come down here and you're looking on, we're going to go test those lows. All right, why take all that drawdown? No need to. Take the small loser here, relatively small, right? It's still going to sting a bit, and look to reload down here. If you get something along these lines, then you wait for the little retrace and then take the first, on the idea that you'd get a higher low and then a higher high, and then now you're off to the races. All right, there you go, guys. Interesting. Okay, I'll be back to you with a few more in just a couple. Okay.